Welcome to AARP Arizona Hispanic Connection for a very entertaining, fun show today. Thank you for joining. This is David Parra. I would like to remind you that this radio show is being Facebook Live. So if you do Facebook, please find us at AARP Arizona Hispanic Connection. Find us, follow us, and recommend us. This is very, very important. Today, we have a special show, a show on music, a show on entertainment. It's about a person who, through his own experience, will relate to us history. History of music, history of entertainment in the Phoenix area in the 40s, 50s, 60s, and beyond. We're talking about Ray Salazar, known as Gumbi Salazar. Gumbi, welcome to our show.
Muchas gracias.
I am so glad that we're doing this show. AARP sponsored a couple of events in the past couple of years with where we had the orquesta de Chapito Chavarria, and of course you were the singer. So I got to meet you there.
Yes.
And I love how you sing.
Fun.
And not only do you bring that entertainer aspect, but history. And we're going to be talking about entertainment, but also history.
Right.
So thank you again for being with us.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Perfect. We are also joined by Anita Ritter. Anita is born in Tolleson, a native. Oh, in Glendale.
I was raised in Tolleson.
Okay.
I was born in Glendale, but raised in Tolleson.
Oh, okay. But still a native of the Phoenix area.
Absolutely.
That I got right. I almost want to call Anita a historian.
Yes.
I almost want to call her that. Anita knows a lot of people and has witnessed a big chunk of history in Metro Phoenix. Every time I need to know something, I send her a text message. And mind you,
She knows everybody.
We're not talking about chismosas, okay? We're talking about facts of history, of people, of community. I mean, I cannot remember one time where she has given me a chisme, you know, honestly. She's very, very ethical, and when I mean historian and knowing a lot, that's what I mean, in the good sense, in a proper sense. So, again, a big chunk of history in Metro Phoenix. I couldn't believe, Anita, that you are turning 80 or you are 80?
I just turned 79 2 weeks ago.
79. So you are moving towards 80. My parents are 80 years old. So for 80 years, you've been in this barrios, right, of this community. Thank you so much. And welcome to our show.
Oh, my pleasure to be here again.
Yeah. You are not, this is not the first time you're with us. I love having you on the show because I depend a lot on Anita. And by the way, Anita's a volunteer. She's helping AARP and me personally tremendously. So thank you very much. I really appreciate it. So Gumbi, and my wife told me, don't call him Gambi. It's gum, like chicle, right? Gumbi.
Gumbi.
So first, tell us about the name. I mean, it seems like people pick a name, artistic name. So where does Gumbi come from?
Well, I was playing in 1963 with a band called the Royal Lancers. And that Gumbi character came out. I didn't know about the character. I hadn't seen the character. And there was a guy that right across the street where we used to practice, the band used to practice. And all of a sudden, because Gumbi turned into a big circle and do the impossible and danced and all that, he started calling me Gumbi. Mm-hmm. And I said, who are you calling? He says, you, Gumbi. And so the leader of the band, Felipe Fuentes Sr., came out and said, hey, is that a tugboat? He said, me quedó el nombre, man.
Okay.
Se quedó el nombre.
So you use that as your artistic name.
Artistic name.
Good. And before, or now, I would like to ask you, tell us a little bit about your family. A little bit about your family.
My parents my mother and father were born here in Arizona. And my dad's dad and mother were also born in Arizona, so I'm the third generation. On my mother's side, my tata was born in Tepic, Nayarit, and my grandmother was born in Sinaloa, and that's where Mexico comes in, into our family.
Right.
But my father was born in 1896 in Tempe.
Wow. That's before Arizona became a state.
That's right.
It was a territory first, correct?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
That's amazing. Did you get to meet your grandparents
No, I didn't.
on neither side?
On neither side.
Mom or dad?
My mother said that my dad's dad was still alive, and he used to put me on his arms, but I was a baby, so I don't remember.
Right.
I remember my grandparents.
It's unbelievable. So on your mother's side, you are second generation Mexican American. On your father's side, you're third generation. And it's
Yes.
interesting because on your mother's side, you said your grandma was from Tepic
My grandmother was from Sinaloa.
and the grandpa from Tepic, Nayarit.
Tepic,
I happen
Nayarit.
to be from Nayarit. I happen to be from the municipio de Ixtlán del Río.
Isn't that
It's a small town called, named San Jose de Gracia.
What
So
a small world.
I know, it's unbelievable. It just boggles my mind, the transition of or when our generations back were very close to Mexico, and then how gradually you become a Mexican American. It always boggles my mind, that experience. Hopefully we'll get to it in just a bit later on. But I mean, and even you, when I hear your story, I mean, you told the story, Anita, of your mother and yourself coming to Calderon to the dances by yourself, or the two of you singing off the top of your lungs. Is that?
No. What happened is my mother was widowed. She was only 39. She was widowed with 9 children. And
9?
yes,
Amazing.
8 girls and 1 boy.
Amazing.
And my mother is like me, loved the music, loved to dance. But there was nothing in Tolleson, of course, everything was in Phoenix. So my mother used to have friends in Phoenix that she used to work with and socialize. But because of the distance, there was nothing between 35th Avenue and 91st in those days. So it's not that there was a lot of danger like obviously there is now, but so that she wouldn't drive home alone, she would bring me with her. I would stay at the house of the lady the friends that she was socializing with, and then we would ride home. So at 1 o'clock when the dances were over, she would come pick me up and we'd drive home. And my mother loved to sing, and so did I. Of course, I have no vocal talent, but we
you
would
love to
sing.
sing.
Oh my God,
Like
love
we
to
all
sing,
do,
love
right?
music. My mother, La Cama de Piedra, Los Laureles,
Oh, yeah.
all the way from from 30. Once we crossed 35th Avenue where the aluminum plant was at the time, all the way to 91st Avenue. We just rolled down the windows, no air conditioning in our cars in those days, and we just sing all the way home.
Amazing. Ulises, will you be able to play a song? Yes. Okay, can you start it? Just kind of start it on the background. This is a song by Gumbi. If you can go ahead and start playing it. We'll play some parts of your songs, and we're
Okay.
about to go on a break. We have a minute. So let's see if you can. Go ahead, Ulises. Ponla, por favor.
Una canción que hice que se llama Una Rosa. I composed the song.
You composed the song Una Rosa.
Una
Can we
Rosa.
hear it a little bit, Ulises, por favor?
This was 10 years ago.
Oh, 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay. No, it's pretty recent.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you, Ulises, for that. We're going to be going on a short break very soon, but it's amazing. I mean, I would like to ask you how your musical career started, Gumbi, because I know a little bit, and I just learned that you actually went to ASU and you got a degree on music.
Yes.
But then
music major.
you major in music, but your career started way before then. So stay with us. We're gonna take our short break. This is AARP, Arizona Hispanic Connection. The show today is called Gumbi Salazar, Born to Entertain. Again, Gumbi Salazar, Born to Entertain. Stay with us. We will be right back.
Aunque mi vida se me acabe. encontré bailando, vendiendo tu amor al mejor postor, soñando. Y con sentimiento noble te brindé yo como un hombre mi destino y corazón. Ya pasaron muchos tiempos, pagaste mis nobles gestos con calumbras y traición.
Thank you for staying with us. This is AARP Arizona Hispanic Connection. We have Gumbi Salazar with us today. The topic is Gumbi Salazar, born to entertain. Time is of the essence, Gumbi. Tell us how your career started. It's very, very fascinating when I hear the story.
Well, it started with my mother. My mother, we'd get up in the morning and she would be singing all these songs, you know, from Pedro Infante and all these Agustin Lara, all these songs she would be singing. And then I'd get up and I'd sing second. My sister get up and she sang third. So then, you know, we do that all day long, and that's how I started in the music. And my sister was a good dancer.
No.
And she wanted to go to Calderon when she was 13 years old, and I was 5. And my mother said, no, you're not going to go. And she started crying. So we ended up going to Calderon. And so her and I started dancing. She was 13, I was 5. And that's how it began. From there it began. I became the floor show of Calderon.
At what age?
At 5 years old.
5 years.
I remember.
You remember that?
Yeah.
Come on, Anita.
Well, I don't remember when he was 5
Okay.
because obviously I was not going to the dances quite yet. I did start a couple of years later.
Yeah.
But I do remember when he used to be there.
Okay.
Not right at 5, but later.
Yeah.
So,
Le tiraban dinero, you know. Like,
yeah, can you tell the story about? So you were actually, people were throwing money at you as a kind of a reward for your dance.
For my dancing, and I would dance and pick up the money and put them in my pockets. And Calderon told my mother, hey, listen, if he makes $15, the people throw $15, I'll put another 15 and we'll make it $30 a night. So $30 a night for 2 nights, I'd make $60. My father worked 7 days and he'd only make 57.
You were making more than
I was making more than my father.
Amazing. Now, how much time did they give you to do your thing?
They would do a whole floor show and they would work the band, which was Freddie Gustillos at that time. He was the leader of the band of Calderon. They would, you know, devote the time to me because the people were, of course,
They were
gave me the
liking it.
intention. Yeah,
Right. And so how did that act so young evolves to kind of lead you in a path of a career, a lifelong career, actually?
So I've always sang also, you know, at the house with my mother and of course I went to high school one day and a band called the Lancers asked me to play trumpet with them, and I went to go audition to play trumpet with the Royal Lancers in 1963, right there near the barrio, and the leader said, "No, we don't want another trumpet player. Can you sing?" You know, and I said, "Yeah, I can sing. I sing through in church," and that's how I started playing with music.
So you sang in church?
I sang in
choir?
church in the choir.
Now, who is, well, first of all, they used to name you or call you Bambo King?
Mambo
Or
King. Mambo King when I was 5, yes.
It's Mambo, yeah.
The Mambo King.
So did the moves that you used to make as a child, did they just kind of came or you kind of practiced?
It was natural.
Natural.
It just came in.
So you know how to dance,
Right.
and then play the trumpet, the trombone, and then sing. Is
Yes.
that pretty much your packet, right?
Yes.
Perfect. Who was Luis Estrada?
Luis Estrada was the singer of the band of Calderon. Like I said, first there was Freddie Gustillos, the leader, and then it became Chalillo Dominguez was the leader.
Right.
And then after him, Chapito, took over. But Luis Estrada was the singer. He was like the Frank Sinatra, Hispanic or Mexican crooner in this town. his voice was so beautiful, and he just loved me to death. And he took me under his wing and pulled me up on the stage and started playing me, teaching me how to play congas and maracas,
Right.
and little, like this, and then letting me sing.
So basically, would you consider him like your first teacher?
Yes, I consider him a mentor. And when I was being rewarded by Chicanos por la Causa at the Biltmore years ago, I had him as talking about me.
To introduce you pretty
to
much?
introduce me in a, in a video. And he said, I don't know why he calls me his mentor. He's always had this talent,
So he mentioned Calderon, Anita. Can you tell the audience just the history about that experience at Calderon? I mean, because I hear a lot about the Calderon Ballroom. What is his last name or his first name?
Leonardo
Calderon. Isn't
and
he
everybody called him Nano.
Nano. Is he still the owner of Rancho Corona?
No,
Is it a different one?
That's Señor Corona is the owner of Corona Ranch.
Can you tell the audience a little bit about the Calderon experience?
Well, first of all, the Calderon was a place that we were not allowed to go to because next to El Salón, the Calderon, was Nano's, which was the bar. And so because the bar, I guess, was, even though Calderon had a bar and like the Riverside and the Legion did too, it was, our mothers were stricter about us going there.
They were concerned.
Yes.
Right. But we loved, because after the Legion, which ended at 1, we would all want to go to the Calderon because they played until 4:00 in the morning. Okay, so Calderon was just a place where, even though it was smaller than the Riverside, it was just a place where it was right on 16th Street in Bacay, and it was the Hispanic. I mean, that's where we all congregated between the Riverside, the Legion, and the Calderon. There were other dance halls, of course, but those were the elite, the best, most popular places. The best bands went there.
Calderon, Riverside, and then you mentioned Post
American
41
Legion,
eventually
Post
had their
41.
dance, well, the same that we know today.
Correct.
They used to have dances there too?
They started the dances in the Ronda Room, which originally, when it was first built, it was just what is now the bar. It's known as the bar, but it's not. It's the Ronda Room, and that was built originally. As funds were raised and the demand came for it, they enlarged it to the north part, which is now known as the Fuentes Hall, and that was a 2-stage addition. There was one addition where the bar is now, and then where the actual dance floor and the stage is, that was built on later.
Let me give you some facts because I think this is very important to kind of set a context. In the 40s, the population of Phoenix was 65,000. Can you believe this?
Yes.
In the 40s, it was 65,000. In the 50s, it was 106,000 people. In the 60s, it grew to 439. In the 60s, 439,000 people. In the 70s, it went to 584,000. A little over 500,000, so it was still very small. Then in the 80s, it grew to 790, and then in the 90s, it almost reached the 1 million. That is 988,000 people, close to 1 million by 1990.
Wow!
So Phoenix did not. Now we are 7 million. So from 1990, that would be what, 20 years, almost 30 years. It grew from 1 million to 7 million. So when you're talking about these parties at Calderon and Riverside, I have to believe that whoever went there, that was pretty much the bulk of the population, the Mexican American, correcto?
Right. And then the good thing about the Riverside is that it attracted people. People came from Safford, they came from Yuma, they came from Tucson, they came from all over.
So if you did not go to those ballrooms, there was nothing else happening other than house parties,
nobody.
perhaps.
Well, we had like for us the high school crowd, we had the dances, the CYO dances at Immaculate Heart, the Catholic Church in the gym. We had the parties at Las Estrellitas at South Mountain. There was other halls like the Science Hall, the Y.
El Mirador.
El Mirador. Well, I was too young for that. But we had the plantation. They had the the plantation, the Willow Breeze. There were other halls, but when I started going, and of course I started very young, because I had to chaperone. My mother was widowed real young, and she was very strict. And so when my older sister started going to the dances, and they're 5, 6, 7 years older than me, I had to tag along as a chaperone. So at 14, I was at the Legion, the Riverside, and the Calderon, even though I wasn't old enough to be there. But this is why I know so many people,
right?
Because I've been around so long.
Yeah.
Gumbi, help us
Thank
here,
God.
because so back in the early days, say 40s, 50s, you mentioned that the Banda del Recodo de Cruz Lizárraga used to come and play for the Mexican-American community.
El Calderon again. Yeah, they would come and play El Calderon. And and they would play El Calderon, and they would play charangas, what do you call it, pachangas. That was the craze that they would bring, and they would have clarinet players, and everything wasn't electric. It was all acoustic.
Right.
Acoustic.
So you don't need electricity. They could play
electricity.
Like the bandas,
And they would people would get up and start screaming. Yeah.
It seems like today there's a separation between the more Mexican community and the Mexican American. Actually, there is a separation. Back in those days, was it so, Anita? It's still there?
Well, you've got to remember that there was a lot of prejudice. I grew up in Tolleson, and our schools were segregated. We did not become integrated until 1951, and our parents had to sue the Tolleson School Board of Education. But the funny thing about it is that I don't remember really, there were no slurs. We were not bullied. We were not insulted. We all got along.
Yes.
Now at the Riverside, the Hispanics could not go into the Riverside except on Sundays.
On Sundays and special occasions.
So Calderon
on
had
Saturdays.
more of also English entertainment.
Yes.
English,
Yes.
Anglo-Saxon entertainment.
Yes.
And only for the Mexicanos, Mexican-Americans, on what day again? Sunday?
That was the Riverside.
The Riverside.
Yeah, the Calderon did not discriminate. The Riverside did.
Calderon would have it on Tuesdays, would have like James Brown.
Okay. James Brown.
That's
Ike Tina Turner. Wow. Yeah. On Tuesdays.
Amazing. but I'm talking about more the Mexican and Mexicans among themselves. So when you went to a dance, there would be people speaking in Spanish, English. It was just normal to be together.
Oh, yes.
I have to believe that that's how it
I don't
was.
really remember there being any racial barriers.
No. No.
I know that there were some in some of the theaters back maybe in the 50s, but I think that by the 60s and 70s, most of that had been torn down and there was more equality.
Well, Riverside, because there were the fights.
The fights
on the Riverside, and they were a country and western band. That's why he wouldn't let people in.
Right.
Only on Sundays and occasion Saturdays.
Got it. Let's take a second break. Stay with us. This is AARP, Arizona Hispanic Connection. The topic today is Gumbi Salazar, Born to Entertain. We'll be right back.
La mirada de tus ojitos siempre no se mira igual. Yo me siento que me alejas cada día más y más. Amor, a una que me quiera con sincero amor. Al baile voy a buscar amor. A una pretty joven que me deja amor.
Thank you. Thank you for staying with us. This is AARP, Arizona Hispanic Connection. Very entertaining show today. Lots of history. And we are showcasing Gumbi Salazar, an amazing entertainer. I mean, you started at 5 years old. So you become basically from a dancer to a singer. Can you kind of tell us the history or your trajectory from your childhood? Luis, what was his last name? Luis Estrada.
Estrada.
So he basically mentors you. So tell us a little bit about that trajectory of you. Take us through and even until today, if possible. How was your trajectory?
Well, at the age of 13, then I went to started my playing rock and roll and oldies but goodies, what they call them, But there were newies when I was playing them, And then I went into the Riverside Ballroom and took over because Pete Guarin was the leader of the band, and those for many years.
So Pete Bugarin was Mexican American.
Mexican American. He was a teacher at Wilson School, and he was a math teacher, and he was a diverse piano player and the leader of the Riverside.
Okay.
That was his place.
Right.
Matter of fact, let me tell you a story that one day this guy came and said, "Hey, listen, I'm on my way to L.A. I need some money for gas. Can I play guitar?" And the guy, and Pete Guarin said, because Pete was very frank, he goes, "You know what? If you play good, I'll pay you. If you don't, I'll kick you off the bandstand." So the guy played one song, he kicked him off the bandstand, and the guy went on his way, and the his name was Trini Lopez.
Trini Lopez? Amazing, huh?
He was on his way to become a star. But I have to...
Well, remember, I don't know much of this. So Trini Lopez became a star.
Yes.
You know him?
Trini
A ver,
Lopez,
por
yes.
favor, Anita.
Trini Lopez made La Bamba. The original was by Trini Lopez, La Bamba.
Is that the one that Richard, what's his name, the movie?
Richie Valens.
Richie Valens sang.
Yeah.
You say that Trini Lopez is the one that made it?
Trini Lopez is the one that made it.
That tells you I don't know
he
anything about music.
Yeah.
That's before your time.
Okay. Wow.
One interesting thing, though, I don't know if you know this, but Pete Bugarin formed a band called Los Caballeros Alegres.
Yeah.
And that was back in the 1930s.
Yeah.
Amazing. Amazing.
And people would go all over the United States. He was another chapito,
So go ahead and continue basically with your trajectory.
So then I took over the Riverside, and the name of the band was called the Blues Society, and that's when we would have Ray Camacho.
Right.
Ray Camacho come and play with me, and the Soul Setters and other California Majestic Five. They would play, but I was the caretaker or the band, the main band at Riverside for years and years. And I have a little story about that. The Moselle Butler was the owner, and she says, "You know what, Gumbi? There's this brand new band from L.A. They're young guys. Can you please let them use your PA system? They're playing Sunday for Father's Day." So I went over there, and I said, "Who's the leader?" They said, "The bass player." And I said, "What do you need?" And I set him up with my microphones and my PA. And then they went inside and they came out in gold capes, dressed in gold capes. You know who they were?
No.
Kool and the Gang.
Wow.
Cool in the Gang.
No, that group I know.
Gosh.
That is
Kool and the
amazing.
Gang before they made it.
You really were with the big shot, huh?
Gold capes.
Gold capes.
That is amazing. Now, continue, because I have more questions, but I want to just kind of allow time and space for you to continue to relate the trajectory.
So for years and years, I played rock and roll and funky music and all that at the Riverside Ballroom, and we'd go all the way to 4:00 in the morning. And then I quit the Riverside Ballroom, went back to Calderon, and started playing with Phil Quiroz and the Sonics, and we became the #1 band at Calderon. We're the house band with Phil Quiroz and the Sonics, and that's what we were playing Tex-Mex music, and I was singing the rock and roll and at Calderon.
Two questions. My brother, my youngest brother, he formed a mariachi band. And one of the things that amazes me is that they're all speaking English because most of the mariachi members are born in this country. And it's very interesting that they're speaking in English, every day.
Right.
But then when it comes to singing, they jump into Spanish. Was that the case with you and all the people that you knew, the groups?
Well, not then for the mariachis. The mariachis were Alma Jalisciense.
Right.
Alma Jalisciense was El Pancho Ochoa. Oh my God, he was the best
Really
singer. Yeah, Luis Esparza was his brother.
Did
and
you
he
get to
was
hear
the-
that mariachi?
Yes,
Anna?
yes, yes.
Yeah,
Was
they
that one
were
of the few
huge.
mariachis that came or were kind of in the area?
They were the main band that came from Mexico,
From Mexico.
and they made people like Lalo Rodriguez. They became through them. They became stars.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That
So there
is
was all that kind of music
Right.
going on. I later I saw that everybody, all these bands like Little Joe and Sonny
Little
Osuna,
Joe y la Familia.
Little Joe y La Familia, and all those,
Osuna,
Little Joe y La Familia, and all those people, they had albums and I didn't. So I took off.
You told me that you told yourself
I
something.
told myself, you are going to get an album, make an album. And I left, and I lived in San Antonio, and I lived in San Antonio for years.
I have more questions, but let me ask you, Anita, just tell me something about Gumbi. I mean, what is your impression? You see him now, you've known him for so long. What impression do you have from the very beginning and on?
Well, I've always been impressed by Gumbi because he started out as like he said, as a very young entertainer. He then, of course, went to school, got his degree, and he was a probation officer.
Yes.
He was a probation officer, and then he has gone on to serve on boards. You're still, what is it? How many years now?
Chicanos por la Causa, 31 years.
31 years on the board of Chicanos por la Causa. But he has been an entertainer that when you have when we have social events and we hire a band, if you can hire Gumbi, you know you're going to have pretty much of a sellout. Because he has been such a constant entertainer, not just the quality, but his presentation.
Right.
And he's very friendly, very outgoing, and he just comes across that he enjoys
He
what
is
he's
an entertainer.
doing. He enjoys what he's doing, that comes across, which makes you then enjoy what he is performing, his
Right,
performances.
right.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you.
so one more question, Gumbi. You and I were talking off the air that in the old days, people did not learn to read or write music. I mean, I think it was very typical.
Yes.
I know I said my brother, the youngest brother, he basically formed a mariachi band. Well, my father-in-law, he literally raised a family of 11 off of mariachi. He was a
Wow.
mariachi.
Wow.
And in his lineage, it goes back to mariachi Vargas, the Tecalitlan, like the
my
third generation.
God.
But he told me that in those days, reading music was non-existent. But you told me that most of the folks that in your circles, professional musicians, that most of them knew how to read music and write, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
So did that make made it the big difference? Because I mean, I got to hear the Chapito Chavarria, not with Chapito, he had passed away, but you played with the Chapito Chavarria Orchestra for many years. Could we say?
Yeah.
Yeah. So did most of the musicians there in other groups that you played with, were they, they knew how to write and read music?
Yes. My band was also, there was Ramon Acevedo. Ramon Acevedo, one of the best trumpet players in this town. He would write, all my music was written and arranged, for me. So I've been lucky at that point. But I don't say just because you can read music that you are a musician.
Okay.
Everybody has a talent. Everybody has a voice.
But
You
for
know what I mean?
professional,
But
it's a
professionally,
different thing, right?
it's good. It's good to get out and read. You can start. You can have a gig that we call
Right.
Sunday,
right? A
chamba, with a guy with a band you don't even know. But if they give you the music, you can read it
Right.
and do it.
Right. Let me start. I wanted to start this question in the last segment, but let me start it now because we still have a couple minutes. How did you see the music in the Phoenix area transition from being more Mexican to, I don't know if it transitioned or it was an addition to more Mexican American, Chicano? Can you tell us a little bit about that transition?
Well, it's in those years, in the 50s, the 60s, even the 70s, it was Latino Latino musicians and bands and but then, like everything else, like the whole world transitioned and people learn how to talk or speak English correctly, and that changed. So that's how everything started changing to the music of today, you know.
And then the names. Why did you, all these Mexican American, Latino groups are using these English names that to us, if I read them, I would think that they were either African Americans or Anglo-Saxon musicians, but they were Mexican American. Why those English names?
It comes back from Mexico.
The English names?
Sure. All the bands right now in Maná and all those, they have those kind of names, you know, because, Germany, the Germans owned Mexico.
Wasn't there an element of acceptance? If people knew if you use a Mexican name, they might not come to your concerts, whereas if you use an American name, maybe they would somehow. Like Little Joy, La Familia, I mean, why? I mean, most of those names that I read about the groups of then, they're English.
No, I think they all go by a catchy name.
Right. Got it.
You know, the people can go, oh, all right, that's that band, you know.
Interesting. Let's take our last break. Stay with us. This is AARP Arizona Hispanic Connection. The topic, a very entertaining one, I might add, is Gumbi Salazar, Born to Entertain. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
I remember when I used to play shoot 'em up, bang, bang, baby. I remember.
Este amor que tanto quiero, la vida me está costando, la miro y me dice.
Thank you. Thank you for staying with us. This is AARP Arizona Hispanic Connection. Very entertaining show today. Gumbi Salazar, Born to Entertain. So let me take on that last question, if I may, Gumbi. Help us. So you, from what I gather, it was a very organic transition, right? Because today we have the Tejano music. I was just there in Las Vegas with the Tejano Music Festival. And then you have Little Joy La Familia, which obviously is not Tex-Mex. What would you consider Little Joy La Familia? What is the genre?
That's Tex-Mex.
It's Tex-Mex?
Yeah.
Okay. And then you have the Tierra. Tierra is a different genre, correct?
Tierra is rock and roll.
Rock and roll.
Rock
but
and
it's still
roll.
considered
That's Latino. Yeah, it's American Latin.
Did you get to know the Los Lobos?
Yeah.
Okay, it's very interesting. When I first arrived in the United States, I was 12 years old. I went to Hollenbeck Junior High in East Los Angeles. And in that school, guess who played?
Los Lobos. Yeah.
And I loved them, you know.
They were great. the fusion. That's fusion. Fusion music.
That's
the category. The category music they play is fusion.
Like a genre?
The genre is fusion. Yeah,
correct.
Fusion music.
So they play jazz, right? Latin jazz.
Latin jazz, kind of like hard rock.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So do you think that today, and let me ask that question to you, Anita, because you said you love to dance. So how do you react to these different nuances of the Mexican-American Latino music, the jazz, the cumbia? How do you react? Is it a natural, or does it take an effort to kind of put in the gear, so to speak?
Speaking for myself,
right.
The music moves me.
Okay.
I move this way for this genre and this way for you see what I'm saying?
Right.
It's the music just for some of us that really, really love the music.
Right.
It just moves us. It doesn't tell us, well, okay, I'm going to do this today because this is this kind of music and that kind of music. You just move to the music.
Right.
Communicator.
That's the only way
it's the communicator of the world.
Correct. It just moves you.
And it's very interesting. My dad is 80 years old, and my dad, even though we come from Nayarit, and in Nayarit and Sinaloa is nothing but banda. I mean, there is banda. You go to Jalisco, and it's mariachi. It's characterized by mariachi in Jalisco, banda in Sinaloa, Nayarit. But then when you come to Sonora and Monterrey, you get that norteño. The norteño will give you the accordion, and they don't give you the saxophone, right? Well, my dad is kind of, I'm sorry to say this, kind of close-minded. He loves a norteño, and if it's not norteño, that's it. It's over. Montañeses del Álamo ring a bell? Los Montañeses del Álamo?
No,
Yeah, they
never
were
heard
norteño. But in my case, I have an iPad, in my car, and I have all kinds of music. I'm like
I do
you.
too.
It could be cumbia, ranchero, bolero, English,
Yeah.
Spanish, merengue.
I even have country western.
Country. I have country. So whatever. So the music is universal, would you say? Gumbi?
Sure, it is. You know, I sang in England, and I was looking
¿En
at
español?
No, in English.
In English? Okay.
English, you know. And so I started singing, and I closed my eyes. I was nervous for a long, long time. You know, I was nervous, but I was nervous because those people are real rigid, and you don't know what they're thinking.
Okay.
Y gracias a Dios, I just closed my eyes and did my songs. When I woke up, when I finished the song, they got up and started screaming. This is England, Wales. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, you know, you can sing everything. And it's, like I said, it's a communicator. You can understand each other.
Right.
The
Let
music.
me ask you to say a little something before we finish the show today about La Sonora Santanera
Oh, yeah.
and La Orquesta de Chapito Chavarria. Can you say a few words about each of those two groups?
Well, La Sonora Santanera used to come and play at Calderon all the time, and Luis Estrada and Chapito and Chalillo, they were all good friends of the Sonora Santanera. They were like brothers, you know. So Chapito started loving their music, and so he started writing their songs.
So he got his inspiration from La Sonora Santanera.
Sonora Santanera.
That's interesting.
He loved them. And see, Chalillo Dominguez was a good sax player, not only Latin, but jazz.
I see.
This man could play jazz, and he wanted to play what you call now salsa. He wanted to play Tito Puente music.
At the convention center, Valle del Sol Profiles of Success, you and I had a brief conversation. You told me something about you bringing cumbia to Phoenix. Did I get that right? Or salsa?
No,
Or
salsa.
Salsa. Can you share
Salsa.
something about that?
Well, you know, I've always been like I said, a dancer, and I always danced the merengue and all, so it just came natural. And Bobby Lopez Sr., who just passed away, was my piano player. We played together for 25 years. We started to investigate salsa and do Chari Palmieri, Eddie Palmieri, you know, Ribareto, all those tunes we started playing. You know, Celia Cruz, Tito Puente, all those tunes we started playing in this town in 1971.
You were going to say something, Anita?
No, I'm just remembering what he started.
So basically in those decades, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, could you say there was like a mini or a full revolution of music with the Mexican Americans kind of embracing lots of genres?
Yes,
Could
you know,
could you say that?
like Phoenix had a terrible time with Tejano music.
Oh, yes.
Really?
You know, Rubén Vela came to this town and put
From
la
Texas.
cumbia,
Oh.
and put la cumbia in this town. There was no cumbia in this town. Rubén Vela, El Ritmo Siete, you know, those bands put cumbia in this town. And the Tejanos started prospering in the 60s in this town and took over Calderon. And people, the Chicanos, what you call Chicanos per se,
Right.
hated them.
Yes.
And there was battles galore.
Qué barbaridad. Can you seem to, those memories seem to come back. Just share a little bit about that, Anita, if you don't mind.
Well, and it's funny because, and I hate to admit it on your radio station, but I don't like Tejano music, and it's just the accordion. I hear the accordion, and I will turn around actually and walk out of the dance hall.
So accordion is not your forte.
It's not my it grates on my ears for some reason, but any kind of music, I don't care who plays it, you know, like I said, I love all kinds of music. The only
Me too.
I do not like is the norteño music.
Interesting. Do you like norteño music? The
Oh,
accordion?
yeah,
Like
sure.
I was just in Las Vegas last month, and it was 3 days of nothing but accordion music, cumbia, and people dancing. It was pretty crazy, actually. I liked it. I actually do like accordion. I got it from my dad because my in Mexico. This is very interesting. All my family, I come from a family of 9. All of us grew up with banda in Mexico. Even the ones who were born in this country like banda. But then my dad, he loved norteña. So we also like norteña, but we also like banda and cumbia. But my dad, I'm telling you, you will not get him to listen, for example, to banda. Or cumbias? No way. He's an old-fashioned norteño freak, and that's it, you know? Mortañeses del Álamo, Alegres de Terán.
What is
Cadetes de Linares.
Flaco's name? Flaco, the accordion player. Flaco.
I know who he is, but I don't remember his last name.
Well, Jimenez is it?
I think so. An amazing accordionist, ¿verdad?
Anyway, when I got to Texas, the Texas band told me, no. If you're going to sing Gumbi in this town, we're going to take you to the master of accordion playing, un viejito en Seguin, Texas. And they took me. And later on, I put it together, and he's Flaco Jimenez's father.
Qué barbaridad.
And he was tremendous. If you're good, I love it.
Amazing.
You're good, you know.
Right. You have some notes, Anita. Can you mention any other names, be it groups, be it singers that you can think of that we haven't mentioned that were kind of popular in that era?
Well, because of my friendship with a lot of these musicians, I would like to mention them here. Hank Arroyo, Johnny Acevedo, George Carrillo, the 2 brothers, Ruben and Armando Castellanos, who were taught and became musicians because of their father.
Yes.
Ernie Chavarria, of course, Bobby, brothers, 2 more brothers, Bobby and Erico Barrubio. Ernie Chavarria, Chevy Cienfuegos, Johnny Gonzalez, Bobby Lopez, Joe Perez, Cel Rojas, Frank Sanchez, Mike Velasquez, just to name a few.
Right.
Were these Phoenicians?
These gentlemen that I have named are more or less my age, a little bit older,
Yeah.
and so these are the gentlemen that
But from Phoenix?
from right
From
here,
Phoenix.
local.
You
They-
had a bunch of...
Oh,
and I'm not naming all of them.
And we're not naming, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot more. These are the ones that I more or less were my age or a little older, like, Hank and some of these guys are a little older than me. But yeah, we all became we were all friends. So we all hung around with each other. We knew their wives. In fact, I am comadre to Ruben Castellanos' wife. Carmen is my comadre. And we all became very, very good friends. Some of the bands that we had were, of course, Chapito Chavarria, Pete Bugarin, Chalio Dominguez, Chano Acevedo, Grupo Moderno, Los Chamacos, who later became Conjunto Moderno, Poco Locos, The Flamingos, Los Compas, which was originally started by Pete Bugarin. And then he went on, Manny Garcia, of course, then is the leader of Los Compas. Latin Spirit, Joe Sanchez. Sol Latino, Freddy Castro. Starlighters, Elias Lugo. Barrio Latino, Andy Gonzalez. Rhythm of the Sun, Manuel Lozano.
Right.
Latin Explosion, Eddie Gaona. That's just a few.
So we have to finish the show, but we don't have that I guess, talent in those numbers today, or am I missing it? I don't see that as much.
You have like Soul Persuasion that are
Power
doing
Drive,
real good.
yeah.
Power Drive that still maintain that, but it's a little few.
So
They've got to.
does that mean that the new generations, the children of all of you, basically follow a different genres perhaps, and did not
Sure.
continue on that tradition
Yeah.
that the parents were, and that's why they have more groups being produced?
Right.
I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that this generation doesn't go out to the dances as much as we did.
That's right.
I mean,
They
every
don't have
Friday,
anywhere to
every
go.
Friday, Saturday, exactly. Every Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, Legion, Riverside, Calderon, all the other halls, they were
Yeah.
like this, packed.
Thank
Right.
you, Anita Ritter. Thank you, Gumbi Salazar.
Como
it was
no.
a pleasure doing this show. And thank you for joining us today. We have to go. Thank you for joining this show. Please do share the video. We might have had some issues. I will fix it and repost it, but do share it with friends. We hope you enjoy it. Join us next time Have a great day.
Me está matando, que me está matando. Yo la quiero y le digo, no me está escuchando, no me está escuchando, no me está escuchando. Yo tengo un amorcito que me está matando, que me está matando, que me está matando.